We are now less than 2 months away from learning more about Starfield and perhaps some of the other surprise releases coming from Bethesda game studios. And in the lead up to not E3, the Starfield and Bethesda leaks have once again been getting out of control. This ranging from tons of fan frustration, a lot of this directed at Bethesda, to a new Fallout game that may actually be coming sooner than you think. But I do have a bit of a confession to make. I can't cook. This fire alarm has been set off numerous times, but we can change all of that thanks to today's video sponsor, Factor. Factor meals are never frozen and will be ready to eat in 2 minutes or less. I was able to just casually have some filet mignon in the middle of the day, no prep or plate required. And the best part about Factor for me is I don't even have to leave my apartment. I just get this big box full of food straight to my door with over 34 meal options each week, as well as these incredible shakes and smoothies that have become just a core part of my diet. These things taste amazing and there's always going to be tons of choices as for what's to drink. So if you're ready to join a bunch of others and take the headache out of eating, you're in luck. Since you watched this video, you can actually get Factor even a bit cheaper. Use my link or go to go.factor75.com and use code POGJUICE, APR50 for 50% off your first box. And once you click, my description will live update to count up the purchases. One of the latest leaks we've seen is on the timing of the upcoming Xbox Showcase and Starfield Direct, aka the E3 that isn't actually E3 anymore. According to some of the latest rumors, this new showcase is going to be about 2 hours in length in total. So most have assumed this is going to be an hour and a half dedicated to Xbox and Bethesda overall, but then 30 minutes dedicated to just Starfield. So hopefully for 30 minutes of this 2 hours, it's just going to be Todd Howard and some new Starfield gameplay explaining what we could expect from this game. And although that's pretty solid, I think most people are pretty happy with 30 minutes for just Starfield. It definitely seems like this was changed. Back in January, Bethesda described a Starfield standalone show, and it really isn't happening. Starfield is basically just going to be a segment of the larger Xbox show, like it has been in past years. So it definitely seems like since that original announcement of a Starfield Direct in January, Bethesda and Xbox have definitely changed their plans with this game. Which, speaking of, another recent rumor suggests Bethesda is internally having some issues. This is about as baseless as a rumor can possibly get, but it was posted on the RPG Codex forum, where one user claims to have heard that Bethesda has internally been a mess since their CEO died in late 2021. It starts off by mentioning Starfield is delayed. It's not really clear if this is talking about another delay or just in reference to the recent and latest delay the game has gotten, but overall the leak cites company-wide management issues, some of the major departures from Tango Gameworks being an example of that, but also productivity at Bethesda really dropping during the pandemic. But Todd Howard is reportedly one of the last higher-ups who actually wants to make video games still. So on one hand, this is definitely one of those leaks that you should be taking with a massive grain of salt, but on the other hand, this does kind of line up with a lot of what we've been seeing and hearing from other sources. There definitely has been this rising narrative of Bethesda overall having problems. For starters, we know Starfield has been having some degree of development difficulty. Todd Howard has described the engine upgrade we're seeing with Starfield as a significant overhaul, but one that is taking longer than they would have liked.
We've been doing it. I can say that the engine work we started a while ago. I didn't want to say. It's a significant overhaul. It's taken us longer than we would have liked, but it's going to power what we're doing with Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6.
We heard a lot of confidence publicly over this 11/11/22 release date, but later on heard that some devs were extremely worried about committing to that date and even cautioned against Starfield being the next Cyberpunk. And then, of course, earlier this year, we saw Starfield get yet another delay. And this narrative over Starfield having some development issues has only continued recently, with the news that Redfall will launch only supporting a 30 FPS quality mode on consoles. So in other words, if you play it on your Xbox Series X or S, you're only going to be able to play the game at 30 FPS on launch. Which honestly, I think no matter how you shake it is pretty bad. Even if you're somebody who doesn't personally mind playing at 30 FPS, maybe you're somebody who prefers the quality mode at 30 FPS. A game dropping with only support for a 30 FPS mode in 2023 after all of the marketing has been in 60 FPS and the game has already gotten a delay is just in general not a great sign for the game's overall performance. And to me, this is even a bit more concerning because last month, Bethesda invited me out to play Redfall a bit early. My biggest issue with an otherwise fun game was how many FPS drops I was experiencing. And you can even see some of these FPS drops in some of the officially shared gameplay. And further context doesn't even really make this all that much better, as just a few few weeks earlier, Ghostwire Tokyo dropped for Xbox with worse performance compared to its PS5 alternative, which of course is kind of embarrassing when you consider that Bethesda is now owned by Microsoft and Xbox. So this Redfall 30 FPS issue became a huge discussion point in the community. There was some back and forth on this, but the vast majority of people seem to agree that this is not a great sign for the game overall, at least when it comes to the game's performance. But one of the interesting narratives that has evolved out of this is also concerns around Starfield launching with only 30 FPS support on consoles. This in part being due to the fact that Starfield has gotten multiple delays at this point, but also this quote from Todd Howard that he gave a few months ago.
Traditionally our games are, we okay with 30 frames a second as long as it looks really good and the simulation's running and all of those things. So we'll sacrifice some of that fidelity for the player experience.
And then you also have to consider that this original Starfield gameplay had many segments in 30 FPS, and it definitely looked like the frame rate overall in the initial gameplay trailer was a bit rough. Now thankfully, in the newer trailer, we actually do see more 60 FPS gameplay. Starfield November on Reddit actually gave us a really good breakdown of this. We see 60 FPS for a lot of the trailer, but 30 FPS and even some frame drops from 60 in some of the exteriors. And although each of these stories individually don't necessarily seem like the biggest deal, you can almost see how there is this mounting negative perception against Bethesda right now. There's almost this dwindling confidence in their product, and even if leaks like this aren't true, for a lot of fans, they just make enough sense and align enough with user thoughts and opinions that people are starting to believe them. Starfield getting 2 delays and then still launching at only 30 FPS would not be the best sign, especially as this is meant to be a flagship next-gen title, although in fairness, as of right now, there's really no actual evidence that Starfield will only be in 30 FPS, it's just fan speculation. Although one thing that has leaked around Starfield visually is it'll probably have ray tracing, as one employee LinkedIn profile had RTX integration as a task on Starfield. So at least it does have that going for it, although there are still some other oddities going on at Bethesda. I feel like Bethesda and Starfield have had this weird relationship with these pre-release series they keep putting up and then just kind of abruptly ending. We had Into the Starfield, giving us a nice behind-the-scenes look at various parts of development that just kind of stopped randomly. It seems like the first delay may have been the nail in the coffin for the series, and it even seems like one episode may have been cut from the series as these 2 developers were shown in the intro video and then never actually seen in any other episodes. And separately, Constellation Questions is the more recent video series that also now seems dead, as it's been almost 4 months since the last episode. And this series only lasted 2 episodes in total. To me, it just kind of feels bizarre how Bethesda does a couple of 4-minute behind-the-scenes videos and then months of nothing. Things definitely feel a bit disorganized, at least from the outside looking in. Another leak we just recently got on the Starfield front is this picture of a wall, this being from that original batch that leaked years ago, and it's really not all that exciting, it's literally just a wall. But what is far more interesting is eagle-eyed fans attempting to break down this code that was shown in the latest Starfield trailer. It was briefly shown on a screen and incredibly difficult to transcribe, but Reddit found a way. There are mentions of an AI pilot being associated with a spaceship crew, among some other lines of getting a ship and AI pilots. This is likely a reference to the ships in Starfield being able to fly without our direct control, and the AI pilot being mentioned here may even be Vasco, the companion robot you can see. A previous tweet from Bethesda Asia mentioned that Vasco could help us pilot our ship, so it seems like this could all be tying together. But one of the more interesting updates to get recently on Starfield is from the Australian classification board, as Starfield was officially rated in Australia, and a lot of what we see here is pretty typical, but it seems like Starfield may actually have a bit more chem use than past entries, but also perhaps more limited romance options compared to Fallout 4. Fallout 4, for as tame as that game is, had a far higher romance rating. So to me, it definitely seems like Starfield's going to be pretty minimal on your romance options, and definitely a far cry from what CD Projekt Red did with Cyberpunk. But also, thanks to SteamDB, it was just revealed that Russian will no longer be a supported language for Starfield, leading to some pushback from the community. And one of the other major leaks to be floating around with Starfield is this controller design. It looks really great, a lot of people speculating this could be around a custom-made Xbox or even just a limited edition for the game, but as of right now, it actually seems like this is fan-made. The images being shared around seem to largely originate from this album, and it seems like this was actually created by a Chinese artist who does fan-made creations and very high-quality ones by the look of it. So if you saw this and were hoping to buy it, it does not appear like this is something Bethesda will be offering. Although Starfield does seem like it'll have this watch you can buy, it seems like this is going to be part of the collector's edition. But speaking of SteamDB discoveries, we also have this incredibly bizarre New Vegas 2 situation. If you missed the story, it popped up over the past couple of weeks, where on April 4th, Bethesda uploaded a new depot for Fallout 4 on SteamDB titled New Vegas 2. A depot is basically just a collection of file, so oftentimes developers will upload new updates or even DLC builds on Steam early for testing. We've seen Bethesda use private depots in the past for things as large as the entire Anniversary Edition for Skyrim, to as small as just a different translation for Skyrim. But to me, this whole situation was just bizarre. That New Vegas 2 naming was pretty pointed, and it left a lot of fans wondering, is this just some kind of several day late April Fool's joke or some other weird tease? Because the thing is, with this, Bethesda can name these depots whatever they want. On the Skyrim side, you can see depots named Arrow as a reference to the arrow in the knee meme. So rather than using a code name like they typically do, somebody at Bethesda was like, no, let's use New Vegas 2 for some reason. At first, I assumed this was just someone at Bethesda Game Studios messing around, and this was the next-gen update for Fallout 4 finally being uploaded. But just a couple of weeks prior to this, a different depot named Beta 2 was also added for Fallout 4, which also could be the next-gen patch. And what makes it all even a bit stranger is both depots are removed shortly thereafter. New Vegas 2 only being up for about one day, and then about a week after that, Beta 2 also being removed for some reason. I've seen a surprising number of people speculating that this really is some New Vegas content for Fallout 4, even a New Vegas remake or remaster, and I just struggle to see how that could work. A New Vegas remake as a Fallout 4 DLC would just kind of be odd. Surely they would upload it as a standalone title on Steam, and thus it wouldn't appear here in the Fallout 4 Depot section. But even further, why would they leak this? That would be an incredible reveal to make at Naughty 3 this year, so why would they name a Fallout 4 Depot this to spoil it ahead of time? What I think this could be is some of that unreleased Creation Club content for Fallout 4. This could be New Vegas themed. We've definitely seen Bethesda do other game themes with Creation Club content in the past, but for a lot of fans, this still has left the question, are we actually getting a New Vegas 2? Because there's been some further rumors and developments on this front as well. So now, for obvious reasons, many people hope for a new Fallout game from Obsidian. I know though, we have heard that this was at least discussed in the past, according to some insiders.
Very early. This is very early. People have begun to have talks and say these words in sentences, and those words are Obsidian and New Vegas 2.
As of late, Obsidian has made it pretty clear they would love to work on Fallout again, which if they were already working on Fallout, that's a pretty odd statement to make. So it makes me think this isn't happening, at least not yet. Conversely, one of the other rumors to pop up was from Dealer Gaming, this coming years ago, but on YouTube they claimed this.
2 unannounced Unreal Engine 5 RPGs from In Exile, and I've heard at least one of them is Fallout. Yes, I've mentioned this multiple times over my own videos and podcasts. This was something I was told some time ago.
So first, this just sounds kind of outlandish. A Fallout game in Unreal Engine from a developer that has largely been making isometric RPGs for the past decade. But as you dig a bit deeper, there definitely could be something here. Both Obsidian and Bethesda Game Studios have the same problem of simply being too busy to get a Fallout game out anytime soon. Obsidian has Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2, while Bethesda has Starfield and The Elder Scrolls 6. Conversely, In Exile has been working on a new AAA Unreal Engine 5 first-person RPG since 2020. It's rumored to be some kind of steampunk RPG, but their next game after that is still a mystery. But it does seem like there is a second game, as it has been loosely confirmed that In Exile does have a second Unreal Engine 5 RPG coming. Brian Fargo, the founder of In Exile, played a role in the creation of the original 2 Fallout games. Sponger, somebody who has leaked both correct and incorrect info in the past, reported in 2020 that the second In Exile game was related to the events in 2020. This could potentially be a reference to the Microsoft purchase of ZeniMax and newfound ownership of the Fallout IP. And on an In Exile employee's LinkedIn, we see that a person was doing research and setting development for an upcoming game that was based on an established IP. They worked on In Exile beginning in late 2021, so it seems plausible this could have been for their second game, as the first game would have already had a year of development, and you have to imagine this setting would have been pretty well established by that point. And to make it even a bit clearer, some recent job listings have mentioned that their next and upcoming game is going to be an ambitious new license, which obviously if it's a new license, it's probably not going to be the Fallout IP and definitely not an established IP. And a little added random piece on top, both Skolzy and Shepshal Nick have claimed to have heard In Exile was remastering old Fallout and Elder Scrolls games, but Jason Schreier claimed that it was nonsense according to their source. So is In Exile really working on a Fallout? Well, we don't really know, and honestly we probably won't know for a while. Although we could finally see a reveal of In Exile's new game this summer, summer, and that alone is definitely something to get excited for. This upcoming In Exile RPG has been described as aiming to renew the RPG genre, and one example of that may be real-time physics and cached data to build large-scale destruction simulations, both reactive to gameplay or cinematics. This is going to be a big RPG from a well-established RPG dev that just got a ton of additional investment from Microsoft. This is something to be excited for. Despite that, the game after, which could be Fallout or could not be Fallout, is likely still years away. I know though, it does almost seem confirmed that the second game is going to be on some kind of established IP. That could be a lot of things. Some other people have been speculating that it's Doom related or even Arcanum. But at the same time, there is definitely something interesting here. And for me at least, it seems like this is the most realistic scenario we know of right now of a new Fallout game coming from a company other than Bethesda. I would still put it at a low likelihood, but you know, it's at least worth discussing. But as we look at the upcoming announcements for later this year, that is still far from everything. Even just looking at Bethesda Game Studios themselves, there's quite a bit on the table here. Skyrim is rumored to be getting a new version of Creation Club, once named Marketplace, but now likely something else. And in this, you'll be able to freely purchase community-made mods for real-world money. Very similar to the old Skyrim Workshop and Minecraft Marketplace as it exists right now. And even just a bit of further evidence that something is coming is Skyrim on SteamDB has been getting near daily updates. We also know that Bethesda Game Studios has an upcoming mobile game that Todd Howard is very hyped about. It seems pretty likely that this is going to be Spy Team, and we could learn more about this at Naughty 3 as well. But then of course, Fallout 4's next-gen update and the Fallout TV show, which just wrapped filming. And who knows, maybe we'll even get some Fallout 76 news. And even just looking beyond Bethesda Game Studios, Bethesda overall could end up having a pretty big summer showcase this year. We have that Indiana Jones game that Todd Howard is helping produce. It's been in development for several years now, and we could finally get a first look at it. And in a pretty similar vein, it seems like Bethesda is investing a ton of money into this new ZeniMax Online Studios MMO. These are the developers of ESO, and they've been working on another huge MMO for years now, and one of these days we'll finally get to see it. On the smaller scale, there are rumors of the mobile dev Roundhouse Studios working on some kind of comic license-based game, and even Tango Gameworks is rumored to be working on a JRPG. So even if some of these announcements are pushed to next year or even years further, it seems like there's a decent chance that one of these big games could end up getting announced in 2023. And the exciting part about this is, even though we've seen some minor leaks around some of them, there's really been no big reveals or major revelations over what these could actually be. Like even when it comes to the Indiana Jones game, we know next to nothing outside of it being themed around Indiana Jones. But if nothing else, one of the other major games that has been missing and we'll hopefully get an update on this summer is Avowed. We just recently saw the logo for the game was updated and actually slightly changed, so hey, maybe they're finally ready to show something. The only other major news we've had on that game is from leaks, and if you're interested in hearing more on that leaked screenshot and other details, you can check out this video. Otherwise, thanks again for all of you for watching, and make sure to get subscribed as we definitely have a lot more info in the coming months.